and to replace it with something that would be completely new about freedom, about sex, about equality, about youth, etc. Now this was exactly the same, but just done in a different way, or done, no, not even done in a different way, but done in a different tone than what was going on in the center of Paris at exactly the same time. The students' protests in Paris also had as a slogan, "Sous le pavé, le plage," meaning underneath the sidewalk we find the beach. The idea of that is you destroy everything that is there, and what do you find? The beach. You know, this kind of wonderful pre-industrial, pre-modern landscape, the beach where you can just lie down, swim, play with sand. The beach, your permanent holiday. So you destroy everything that is there, and then you find something that has always been there. Nature, people living together, etc. That's this kind of where the hippie thing comes together with complete destruction. Very interesting. So their famous song, I just want to point this out to you, "The Motor City is Burning." It was originally written by this guy, sung by another guy, but written by another guy, but sung by this guy, John Lee Hooker, a very famous blues singer who moved up to Detroit from the South in the 30s, and then from Detroit became a very famous blues singer. And he sang this song just after the riots, "The Motor City is Burning." Iggy and the Stooges, this idea that black music or that white punk music can be a culture that celebrates the idea of destruction and of violence in order to reach something else, in order just to create freedom, is, I guess, what they believed. Okay, what did this destruction, because this was the kind of, I'm just showing this this last part to show you which kind of emotional, what was going on in the guts of people and who were active here. But what was really happening to the city after the riots? This is one of the things that happened to the city. The city basically just emptied out. Because before the city was also emptying out of white people, but there was still a kind of idea that if you would change this and do this, that the city could still be shaped and formed by urban planning in order to make it work better, as you saw in the fragments or the stills from the film by Detroit City on the Move. But after that, the thing just completely went downhill. This is, for example, an image of one area in the inner city of Detroit now and just before the riots. So you can see that 80% of the houses have disappeared. So interestingly enough, this prophecy, this weird prophecy of we should just destroy everything and go back to nature, to a natural state of being, is exactly what happened to Detroit. Here you see the Brewster Douglas homes, where Eddie Murphy's clay animated dolls and Smokey Robinson and Diana Ross and the Supremes all lived. This is what it looks like now, completely deserted, empty, birds fly through it. This is the center of Detroit, just one of the hundreds of dilapidated buildings, one of the famous theaters, a dentist's office. A large part of the city actually look as if there's been a kind of a neutron bomb that has left all the buildings standing, but has vaporized all the people. It looks as if it just happened like that all the people left just in the 15 minutes. You can still walk into these buildings and find a deserted dentist's office from 1960. Beautiful mansions, completely collapsing. The big theater turned into a car park. This is, of course, nearly a cliche now. And then there was another renaissance, an attempt in the 1980s to say, okay, let's achieve another renaissance here in this city. So General Motors built they said, okay, we will build our new headquarters right in the center of the city, the Renaissance Center, they call it. And we will bring in so many jobs and so many people working here that this will be the push that will get Detroit up and running again. And how do they build it? They build it as a spaceship. You cannot reach it from the street nearly, you can only drive into it. The whole building, which indeed has brought thousands and thousands of jobs to the city again. But these jobs do not do one thing with the city. They just sit inside this building. Everything that they need is inside the building, and then they can, from the building, go directly onto the off-ramp on the expressway out of the city to one of the suburbs. Here you can see it. It's a building by John Portman. Quite beautiful, actually. Then another renaissance in the 90s. The big trick of the 90s was bring in the casinos. So an enormous casino is being built inside the city, and indeed this brings tourists to the city who can then stay in the hotel on top of the casinos. It offers work for guards. That's about the best job for a local Detroit person he can get in the casino. And it does bring in tax dollars, and the tax dollars can be used to bring in culture to the city. So I don't have a picture of culture in Detroit, I'm sorry. But there is culture, I assure you. Another thing that works really well in the city is the yearly auto show. I've been there, it's fantastic. It's one of the big events in America. People from all over the United States come to Detroit to look at the new cars being presented by the great car manufacturers. It's one of the biggest events you can. It's something you do with your family. So you fly in, take a hotel with your family there, and you go and look at cars. And endless amounts of cars. But all this has not done anything for the main problem of the city, that nobody wants to live there. Everybody who can moves out. The city is impossible to pay for because you have so few people who pay taxes, but they are spread out so wide. So in order to get them electricity, to get them water, basic requirements of a city, it's impossible. So the city keeps on dropping. As you can see, from 1950, 1.850 million so they lost 1 million people in half a century. And now, what I want to leave you with is the project that is going on right now. A new mayor, Dave Bing, who used to be an American football star. And he's quite old. He's in his, I think, late 60s. So he's the first mayor to say, okay, it's inevitable. We are shrinking. But let's make that shrinking happen in the best possible way. So he has promoted this plan called Downsizing Detroit. And the interesting thing of this plan is that it has all the he tries to revive all the urban planning sophistication that would make him comparable to his forefathers or his earlier colleagues like Kavanaugh in the 50s and 60s. So he wants to do it just as integrally, just as professionally, using the best and the brightest of scientifically based urban planning from Harvard, from Delft, and to plan this downsizing in the best possible way. So it really is an innovative concept in the sense that the planning for the future is not planning for growth, but it's planning for shrinkage. In that sense, it's really, I mean, the fact that, of course, we know all these studies now, it's become nearly a cliche, but the fact that somebody is actually doing it is very new. So there's this enormous revival, renaissance, you could say, of urban planning in this city. Here's the Detroit Strategic Framework Plan, where everything is, it's also all over the news in America all the time. He wants to demolish an enormous amount of housing, but not to just do it like this house is not good, let's demolish it, this one is better, but to do it from a global overview. He wants to say, let's destroy all the homes here and not destroy them here. Let's destroy them here so we can achieve a more compact neighborhood here. So he wants to reorganize, so he destroys with a big picture in mind. And then this is from Time magazine of last week. He wants to create a huge green belt around the city. So the funny thing is that a lot of the real power and the top-down authority of modernist urban planning is back with this plan, but in order to save a city that is shrinking. So it's a very interesting kind of combination of two things that do not seem to fit together. This is the city right now, where everything used to be gray, now 80% or 60-70% is green. So you have to remember, it went from that to that, from one big cake of building with no highways through it to this enormous field crossed through with highways and then green pastures with ruins of houses. And then there's this, and that's where I really want to leave you. Separate from Mayor Bing, there's this other movement. This movement that says Detroit is the ultimate failure of industrial society, the ultimate failure of authoritarian planning, the ultimate failure of our system. And therefore, it should be nearly the promised land or the homeland of people, you could call them neo-hippies, who are now moving into this city and saying, okay, this city belongs to us. The city belongs to the people. And we will take over the city now, thank you very much. So go away with your rules and go away with your projects and go away with your policing and go away with your economy. We are taking over the city and we are going to live here in a nearly anarchistic, but then in the original sense of the word, self-sufficient, small-scale, autarkic way. So you have the urban... I just dropped a USB stick that does not belong to me. Inside a bottle of water. I have to deal with this. I'm sorry, Claudia, it's yours, no? This is a very... Anyway, I was talking about anarchy in the US. Well, maybe we should just leave it here. So, thank you. Have some more.